The average woman, the average woman will live to be 79 years old. Men, only 73. So our telomeres predict that we should actually be living to be 120. That means that we're dying 41 years younger than we should. So since I want to live as long as possible, honestly, I want to go as far as I want to get to 130, 140. I pay attention to articles that talk about, extending your life and making healthier choices. And I'm sure that you do too. So when I see articles, sorry, I'm on the wrong one. When I see articles like this, it talk about cutting back one amino acid that's going to help you to increase your lifespan. And so they're talking about in mice, but they're predicting that this is going to be the same for us humans. I'm interested. I want to know what they're talking about. And so in that particular article, the researchers were able to lengthen the lives of mice by reducing the amount of isoleucine in their diet. I was very happy to see that they acknowledged that isoleucine is an essential amino acid. So we can't just not have isoleucine. That's not a thing. It's not going to be good for us. So they show some supporting evidence for the article. And they talk about this 2016 study that showed that there's a link between BMI and higher isoleucine consumption. And I just want to stop there and point out that what a link means is that it's not a direct have higher isoleucine. It's not causation. It's a link. It means that there's some kind of connection that's happening there. And that's important for us to recognize because we don't typically make major changes to recommendations based on links. Usually we need to have evidence. So that article, that's supposed to be showing this link, there's another issue that I saw. So you can see that it says that isoleucine and valine reduce the amount of they showed the connection between isoleucine and valine, but not leucine. But then in the summary, they say that for the 3 branched chain amino acids, all 3 of them, leucine, isoleucine, and valine, were shown to have an impact. Again, causing me a lot of frustration because if you're going to tell me in the beginning of the article that that's not that leucine was kept out of this, that it was important and it needed to be there and it was actually detrimental to not have, then later on in your conclusion, you shouldn't be saying take leucine out too. So it's contradictory information that we need to pay attention to, because if we don't pay attention to it. So that article, as I was reading through it, cited some more evidence for what they were saying, because they were saying that they could show that there were human studies. And so I was curious. I'm like, oh, there's human studies. So they point us to this article. And I was kind of excited because I'm thinking, well, maybe since this study is both mice and human subjects, then this is going to show something good. But when you actually look at the length of time that the human subjects were studied, they were only in there for 43 days. And the other problem that I have is that the 38 subjects, 19 of them were allowed to eat their usual diet. Why is that a problem? This is the research, first of all, that they're using to validate the first article that I found that said that we should, be trying to get isoleucine out of our diet. So in this article, we have 2 sets of people, one on a very controlled diet, and the other set of people just doing willy-nilly whatever they want. Well, even if I'm in a study and I might be thinking, all right, I should try to eat what I normally eat. If what I normally eat is really poor quality food, first of all, then we didn't really compare taking isoleucine out to not taking isoleucine out. What we've compared now is taking isoleucine out to somebody's really, really, really poor diet, or what if I had a bad day? And maybe my diet's normally pretty good, but in this 43 days, for some reason, I'm having a horrible month and I'm just like rabbit hole scenarios and I'm doing poorly. And so I know when I was doing poorly back on the standard diet, I would have been eating chocolate. I would have been eating pizza for supper several times a week. When I wasn't doing well, I didn't even do my normal good enough. So I feel like they should have controlled what both sets of people were eating, one with isoleucine, one without. Dr. Fung has also helped us to understand that when we do anything to our body for an extended period of time, our body adjusts and then it behaves appropriately. So what it does is it does the thing that's going to be healthiest for us. So the other problem that I have with the 43 days is that by the time that these people would get to, let's say, 6 months, because that's how long it takes to happen with food stuff. By the time I get to 6 months, would my body have figured out a way to get more of the isoleucine out of the food that I am eating? Because we don't actually, we rarely get 100%. We don't actually. I can't even say that we get 100% out of anything, right? So since we get like anywhere from plant stuff, we can get as low as 10 or 20% out. And then animal stuff, we can go as high as, I think it was 80%, I heard. If that's the variation, well, isn't it possible also that my body would just figure out a way to get more isoleucine out of whatever I'm eating? And I don't know. I don't know what my body would do in that situation, but I feel like we should have at least done a year to figure that out. But then it means keeping people isoleucine reduced for a year before we know that that's healthy, since isoleucine, as they started off saying, is an essential amino acid. So given that it's an essential amino acid, I could see why people just wouldn't want to be doing anything that's going to put the health of people in jeopardy, right? So, but I go down this entire rabbit hole to try to verify why they're saying we should have less isoleucine, to come to, well, the article itself saying that on the one hand, it's cool, it's great, it's amazing that we can manipulate food, use food to improve our lifespan, but cautioning us very, very, very strongly that reducing protein intake is detrimental to the body of both mice and people. So it's detrimental to the body. Obviously, then what we're doing to the mice, dangerous? What we did to those 19 participants, they're detrimental? Okay, so the conclusion of the researcher wasn't, let's abandon this line of reasoning, let's abandon this idea. The conclusion of the researcher was to figure out how we can create an isoleucine blocking drug. That's where the researcher went. That's why I'm making this video today, because I'm shocked that taking a drug is seen as healthier than eating protein in the form that it came to us, in the form that we've always eaten it, in the form that got us to where we are today. But we're being scared away from eating protein at every turn, Wellness Warrior. And that is frustrating, but even more than frustrating, it's scary to me. I see this in the keto world. I see it where we have influencers telling people that if you eat too much protein, your body is going to turn protein into sugar and just kick you out of ketosis. And then you're going to be on a fat gaining trajectory again. And your whole world is going to, fall apart and nothing's going to go well. And so we need to be very strict on protein and keep it low. And that's not how the body actually works. That's not at all what your body wants to do.
Driven process. The fact of the matter is that your liver can make all of the glucose that your body needs. You don't have to ingest any glucose. No carbohydrates are necessary. Your body has got this. Your liver, which is one of the smartest organs in your body, perhaps even smarter than your brain, it knows exactly how much glucose you need from minute to minute and is happy to produce it very quickly and very safely when your red blood cells need that. Humans can also initiate gluconeogenesis in their intestines, part of your intestines, in your renal cortex, that's the outer part of your kidney. And then also we now know that astrocytes in your brain, this is a particular kind of cell inside the human brain, astrocytes can make glucose as well. Research shows that if you're still eating too many carbohydrates for your personal physiology, and for some people this could be more than 100 total grams a day, for some people 50, for some people 20, and you add protein, actually you add amino acids to this mix, which come from eating protein, then that definitely can elevate your insulin. It can definitely make your blood sugar go up temporarily. But as you eat a low carbohydrate diet, and so you're eating the amount of carbohydrates that is right for your personal biochemistry and physiology, that may be under 100, that may be under 5 total grams of carbohydrates a day, then you cannot make your liver or your kidney or your intestines or your astrocytes make glucose if your body doesn't need it. It just doesn't work that way. The entire key to enjoying all the benefits of a ketogenic diet, and you can get these from eating very, very low carb, from eating keto, from eating carnivore. Any of these will give you all these benefits. The key concept you have to understand is that it has to be a very, very low carbohydrate diet. And so it's common when somebody's converting from eating the standard American diet, standard Western diet, full of carbohydrates, highly processed, when they add protein to that diet, which breaks down into amino acids, they'll see a noticeable blood sugar spike on their glucometer. But as they convert to a ketogenic diet, super, super low carb carnivore, they stop noticing this, and that's because it no longer works that way. Once they have healed their metabolism, gotten their insulin level down to where it needs to be, got their glucagon level where it needs to be after a few weeks or a few months of eating a ketogenic diet.
So, I've recently been eating quite a bit of protein. I decided to start carnivore just about 2 months ago. And I have a video about that, so I'm not going to go into all the details of it. But the one thing that going carnivore has helped me to see is that I actually haven't been kicked out of ketosis. And I haven't gained any weight. My energy has been great. And why is that? Well, it's again going back to what Dr. Barry was just talking about, and that data I first saw it from Dr. Bickman, and he's done a lot of research on this, and he's showing where if you're not overdoing carbohydrate, your body absolutely knows what to do with the protein that you eat. Your body isn't going to, and Dr. Fung talked about this too, your body isn't going to make sugar when there's lots of energy available on the one hand, but your body isn't going to not make sugar if you didn't eat any. interesting to me, though, is that Dr. Bickman goes the extra length, the extra mile to point out that there's so many better things to make um, make carbohydrates out of than protein. And so our body, wanting what's best for us, wanting us to be healthy, wanting us to be strong, takes incoming protein and does good things with it. Here's the problem that nobody wants to acknowledge. We are so focused on eating garbage. We are so focused on having fun with food that we end up putting so much sugar in our body that our body cannot do what it's supposed to do with the protein because it spends too much time detoxifying us. And I feel like this is a concept that we're having a hard time to understand, right? Because we keep listening to the food companies and the food guidelines that suggest that someone like me, who's eating as much protein as I'm eating, I should be tired. I should be constipated. I should be having headaches, and I should be packing on the pounds. But somehow I'm not. Now, this is short term. So this is part of the reason that I'm planning to keep eating better. I started adding the eggs to my diet, and then I switched over to carnivore because I want to push this envelope, and I'm going to go far into the future because I want everyone to understand that if we don't allow ourselves to see the problem, the real problem, which is the amount of sugar that we're eating, then we keep seeing what our body's actually doing, which is frantically trying to save us from the mistake that we're making, frantically detoxifying us to try to keep us as healthy and safe as possible. We keep seeing that behavior, which is storing carbohydrates as fat, which is shuttling carbohydrates and toxins that come into our joints and into other organs and into places out. It's making our skin look bad and all that. We see that action that the body is doing to get the sugar out of our blood as a mistake. Your body's not making a mistake. Trust me, your body's not making a mistake. Your body's trying to keep you as healthy as it can and keep you walking around on the planet. And it's doing that by putting the carbohydrates anywhere that it can that's not harmful this second. The hope being, winter is going to come and you're going to stop eating the berries or the bananas or the mango or whatever you're eating that your body is like, what? The sugar is coming from somewhere. Not realizing that winter is never actually going to come because we live in this false reality today that's always summer. And so we're always getting extra carbohydrates. And we're always keeping our body in a state of emergency and panic because it has to get these sugars out of our body. But then we blame the protein. So if we listen to what Dr. Berry explained, it's the excess protein in the presence of carbohydrates that gets us into trouble. Right? I mean, ultimately, and I've said this before, and I think I'll keep saying it because it makes sense. If you actually find a way to overeat protein, then yes, you'll gain weight. But since I've been trying to do it, I've realized that your body just gives you this ick feeling if you keep eating protein, especially if that's all you're eating. At some point, it just stops tasting good. When I did the interview with Dr. Chafee, and he said, you can't overeat protein, it will stop tasting good. I didn't quite get it because it had happened to me once or twice when I had ribs, but that was the only time it ever happened. And I just thought I was starting to not like ribs. Now it's happened to me with pork. Now it's happened to me with chicken that I'm eating and just can't keep going. That I have this feeling that if I take one more bite, My body is not going to, and I might, lose it. So there's something that actually happens when you're eating healthy food that stops you from overeating. I've never eaten any kind of junk food and felt that I needed to stop eating because I had that feeling. I stopped eating because whatever I was eating was finished. I stopped eating because whatever I was eating, like I was full. I actually, like my stomach was full. Funny enough, I didn't get I'm overly full in the stomach feeling. What I got was the ick feeling. Like there's no more of this that's going to go in you. Gross. Stop. That's the feeling I got. And I think this is why little kids, when you try to get them to eat past where that's what you see. Like you can't get them to drink a little more milk off the breast. No, they like, oh, they want to get away. You can't get a little child to, like, you're trying to put it and they just spit it out. And I feel like at the beginning of our journey, when we're eating properly, that's still functioning. But then we mess it up with all these carbohydrates. And we create problems. And it's because we don't understand something very, 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 very important that I'm about to explain to you. And to explain it, I'm going to give you this analogy. It's like every time you go out and you bring groceries in your house every single week, right? And if you use those groceries, there's going to be garbage, right? So no matter what we do, groceries equals garbage. So some of the groceries that we buy, we can use almost everything. Just a little plastic bag, and we can eat almost all of that food. Sometimes we can even eat all the food. So it's gone. We've eaten the entire thing. But then there's other groceries that come into our house that have a lot of packaging and therefore a lot of waste. What would happen if that food that has so much packaging, let's say that the food inside of it is like only 50% of the packaging. You have just as much packaging as you have the food you're going to get. Okay? The majority of people are used to clearing the garbage out of their house on a weekly basis. That's just your normal. You make garbage, you get it out of the house. But what would happen if there was a limit on how much garbage you could actually throw out? Right? Like your city says, you're producing too much waste. With every X amount extra garbage, you're having like ridiculous amounts of fines that you cannot afford. What would you do? Right? If you bought items that were more packaging, right, than food, you need to buy more of those items, because if there's only half the amount of food in there, I still need to feed me properly. I still need to feed my family properly. What would you do? Right? You would automatically, if you were to keep yourself buying those high packaging foods, increase the amount of garbage, and therefore you would get behind on the amount of garbage you could put out because your city is limiting you on how much garbage. So now you would start accumulating garbage in your house. Right? And if you made too many mistakes where you allowed too much garbage, so too much high packaged foods into your house, at some point it would be a problem, right? You wouldn't want your house to start filling up with garbage, obviously. So now my question to you is, would you be more careful how much food entered your house that was packaged excessively, that was causing this issue where you're now having food waste garbage in your house, which of course is going to lead to bugs and smells and all kind of bad health things for you? I'm going to give you a moment to think about your answer. Okay. I know that everybody watching said, yes, I would be much more careful with the packaging that was coming in my house if I couldn't just throw away what I wanted to throw away, because I would make sure that, right, I would buy the food that comes with the least packaging, or at least a reasonable amount of packaging. But Wellness Warrior, I want to point out that for most people, that's not true. The most for most of us, we are still eating ultra processed foods. Ultra processed foods produce the most damage, so garbage, for our body to clean up while giving us the least amount of nutrition. Bunch of garbage, a little bit of food, a little bit of nutrients. And they take years to clear out of our body because those ultra processed foods build your structures, because that's what you're taking in, right? So that's what your body's being built from. And none of us can say that we are unaware that ultra processed foods are unhealthy, right? Chocolate bars, chips, and candy are specifically marketed as fun treats, and we still eat them, right? These things that damage our body because it's fructose, right? We know fructose is damaging to our liver. It's high in sugar, so damaging every other part of us, right? Causing insulin resistance, causing problems. And we still eat them. We're still eating these fun things. So the problem has to be that we're unaware of how long it takes to clear the garbage from our body. That's my only conclusion I can come to. You are unaware that it takes years to correct the damage that you're creating. Because I will hear people say things like, oh, but once in a while, it's okay to have ice cream. It takes years to clear the damage that one little ice cream is going to make. So once in a while, sure, it still takes years. But what about frozen pizza, cereal, and anything with seed oils in it? Are low quality foods, like these are low quality foods, right? That trick you into thinking you gave your body something healthy because the box says something like, gluten-free or low in fat. What the box doesn't tell you is that food that you just tried to give yourself was well too low in protein and healthy fat to build a healthy body. So I'm giving myself the ultra processed junk. I'm giving myself ultra processed food as food. And then I'm expecting my body to build a healthy version of me. So, okay, wait a minute. Well, what about the healthier version? That fruits, vegetables. What about those things that we eat? Guess what? They don't provide the proper balance of amino acids, fats, and micronutrients that our body needs. But do you know what gives us that proper balance? Animal protein. Yeah, the same animal protein that they're saying we need to avoid if we want to live a long life. That's where we get the proper balance. Recently, I'm reading Georgia Aid's book, and she talks about this. There's a whole chapter talking about protein and the fact that animal protein gives us the proper balance for our brain. And so therefore, if that's the proper balance, like she pointed this out, and I was like, she said, I was so shocked. I was like, it's true. If my brain needs animal protein and that's healthy for my brain, why would it not be healthy for my heart or my liver or any other part of me? Why would my body be created in a way where the thing that's healthy for my brain is not healthy for my liver, is not healthy for my muscles? The truth is, it's not. Your body isn't created like that. If it's healthy for your body, it's healthy for, if it's not healthy for your body, it's not healthy for your body. One of the biggest problems that we have on this planet is we are constantly being told to avoid eating meat. And we're constantly being told that the toxins in plants don't matter so much because there's such a small amount. But who decides what's a small amount, Wellness Warrior? Because from where I'm sitting, when I eat tomatoes or potatoes or eggplant or peppers or any of the other nightshades, and my body wakes me up in the middle of the night in pain, every joint crying, and me crying because I'm so in pain now that I've taken these foods out of my diet. If I accidentally get something like that into my diet, I feel it. Who decides what's a large amount? The pharmacist, the doctor, the nutritionist, or my body that's reacting to it? I'm going to encourage you to let your body that's reacting to it be the judge of whether or not you can tolerate the things that mainstream tells you that you can tolerate. Because I figured out that mainstream, well, they're not focused on our health. See, here's the thing. Cheap food makes more profits. And the cheapest foods that we can create are grown plant foods that we then shape into other fun things. So we take plants and then we make fake meat and tell the people, don't eat meat, but eat the fake meat that we've made. Well, why would we do that? Why would we want to do that? Oh, wait, plants are more profitable than animals. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Cheap foods set us up to need medication. Why would they want to do that? Oh, wait, medication is also profitable. Once you're on a medication, usually you're taking it forever. Medications set us up to need hospital interventions. Why would I want to do that? Oh, wait, hospital interventions are profitable. At every step of this chain, there's somebody else making profit off the fact that we are eating the cheapest possible food we can. Yeah. And if we just keep eating that cheap food, this system just keeps moving forward. And it's frustrating to me because they're not just targeting adults, right? Like every adult has the decision to make whether they're going to drink, whether they're going to smoke, right? Every adult has that decision. But my child, my baby, doesn't have the decision-making process of what baby food I start them on. And we've been listening to baby food companies for years, and we've been starting them on pureed vegetable. First of all, why do we even buy those things? They're so easy to make at home, but convenience, right? Everything in our world today is about convenient. But Wellness Warrior, I'm trying to get you to understand that it is absolutely inconvenient to be sick all the time. It is absolutely inconvenient to be in pain all the time. I lived there for 23 years. Not fun. It is absolutely inconvenient to have brain fog. Know so many people with that. Vertigo. Know so many people. Like all the PCOS. Know so many people with that. Heart problems. Diabetes. I know so many people with all of these problems. It is absolutely inconvenient to have these things. Let's remember the conclusion of the article that I found was a potential isoleucine lowering drug. Right? I don't think that that's the best way to live to 120 years old. I really don't. If you want to live to 120 years old, what would you actually need to do? See, in my mind, my logic is saying if I want to live to 120, I would have to eat healthy food to build a healthy body. That's the first thing that comes to me. And Wellness Warrior, I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. We are redefining the definition of the word food. Food is protein and fat, animal protein and animal fat, right? That's what food is. We have to stop allowing these companies to trick us into believing that garbage is food. Carbohydrates are on your plate as entertainment, as fun, right? To amuse you. It's the protein and the fat that's actually building the healthy version of you. How much amusement do you put on your plate is going to determine how far into the future you live. The second thing, have more muscle to support your healthy body. Well, how am I going to have more muscle? I would need to eat the stuff that helps me to build muscle. What's the stuff that helps us to build muscle? Protein and fat. Okay. A lot of people are going to try to tell you that you need to carb load to build muscle. No, you don't. Your body, as Dr. Berry said, makes all the carbohydrates, so the glucose that you ever need, because glucose is all the body's actually looking for. Any other type of sugar that comes into our body needs to be converted, needs to be manipulated, needs to be. So we are expending extra energy that our body could be using to build us, to process sugars that we don't even need to eat. Women happen to live much longer if they have more muscle on their bodies. So for sure, I'm working on that, because that's important for me, because I want to live as long as possible. And the third thing that you would need to do if you want to live to 120, dare I say 130, if our telomeres are saying 120, because some of us make it past, only time is going to tell on this story. I want to know if you're going to, I hope I'm around to see you be one of them, right? So we need to do this. And that third thing that we're going to do is avoid danger. Yeah, that means I'm going to try my best to look both ways before I cross the street and, be careful with myself. But it also means that I'm going to make sure that I stop eating non-food substances. I took plants out of my diet on purpose. It's a non-food substance that I do not need to be eating. And it also means I'm taking out any unnecessary drugs, right? 100%. If I get hit by a car, I'm going to let them give me a little something while they're fixing me. But that's a necessary drug. But other than that, unnecessary anythings are not supposed to be going in your mouth, going in your veins, going however you're getting them in you. Stop it. You realize your skin can absorb stuff. It's hard. I don't eat them, but I know that just walking around this planet, stuff is getting in. I'm inhaling, stuff is getting in me that my body has to fight. Why am I adding to my body's problem by making it have to work harder? Right? That's what I'm doing. I'm making my body have to work harder by eating stuff that I shouldn't be eating. We have to stop eating garbage. We need to stop letting companies manipulate us, because that's what they're doing. For their profit, they are manipulating us to eating stuff. You can't call that food. It's stuff that gives us a quick mental hoo-hoo and a physical ha-ha, and it's ruining our health. So for 30 seconds of pleasure, I'm giving away 41 years of my life. Wellness warriors, you should be insulted by that. Do you really want to give away 41 years of life because of a taste? You'll have much more fun if you actually live your life doing fun activities with a healthy feeling body. We survived for thousands of years eating whole foods. But today, they're trying to tell us that we need supplements and we need their medications to live healthy lives. It is not true. I guarantee you that you won't be healthier on medications and supplements than you would be on whole foods in a healthy body. right? But what's one of the problems that we have is that by the time, oh man, our kids are not even making it to 10 and they're already showing signs of insulin resistance, right? So how many under 10-year-olds have you seen who are obviously overweight? How many under 10-year-olds do you see that have struggles with their pain, struggles with headaches, struggles with stomach, so like digestive issues? What are we allowing companies to do to our families? We have young people with mental health issues. Again, reading Georgia's book and getting some information from her, and that is happening because we're eating the wrong foods. The companies are trying to help us to believe that, first of all, we need these processed things to be happy. It's not true. That we need these processed things to make our life easy. Your life is never easier when you're sick. So that's not true, right? We keep looking at the time we're saving. We are not looking at the time we're losing at the end of our life, and we're not looking at the pain and therefore time we lose because we don't get to do what we want to do. It is not more convenient to be sick. We need to erase these ideas out of our world thought process. It is much more convenient to be healthy. And I can tell you, because I never thought that I would be eating the amount that I'm eating. I never thought I'd be eating the amount of protein that I'm eating. And I don't feel bad, but N of one, first of all. Second of all, I just started, right? But so I'm not going to use myself as the example. Dr. Baker, Dr. Barry, like so many doctors are eating so much more so much more protein than I ever was. And they're feeling amazing. And they've been doing it for years. Actually, I was just on Instagram. There's another doctor, O'Mara, talked about that he's 14 years having stopped eating plants. Like, these doctors are well into their double digits of not eating plants. I know Dr. Westman, he still eats plants, but he's like been keto for double digits of years, like more than 20 something years. We do not understand the mistake that we are making by continuing to eat garbage, by continuing to give our health away for the fun taste of chocolate. That's what I was doing. I was giving my health away for the fun taste of chocolate. And since I've stopped, my life has dramatically improved. And it's not something that you can just say, oh, like, show us the numbers. It's quality of life as well. The fact that I can run around and do this stuff that I like to do, the fact that I'm adding activities rather than taking activities away. I remember that my mom, when she was younger, used to do so many activities. And then as time progressed, less and less and less activities, right? Versus myself, like, as time has progressed in the last 6 years, I've added new activities. The one that I've shown you guys is climbing, but I've added so many things. Rebounding is another one I've added. We don't realize, and it's sad, because at this stage of my life, it is when I have more time. So why shouldn't I be doing more things? And yet that's the reverse of what happens to most people. They get to their 50s, 60s, and 70s and don't have the energy to do anything besides watch TV and eat junk. This is not the way that we're supposed to be, Wellness Warrior. I remember when I went to Barbados to visit my family, and I saw how most of them were still running around and working in their gardens and doing activities well past 50. And yet over here, we're barely moving. Don't get me wrong, they still ate a lot of rice, but their level of consumption of ultra processed foods is so much lower than ours. If you do one thing, get rid of the ultra processed foods. Just if you do one thing. If you can do more than one thing, eating more protein, but while keeping those carbs. If you do high carb, high fat, you're doing standard Canadian American diet, of course your weight will rise. Any person who thinks that they're just going to add protein and lose weight if their carbs are high is not listening to what all of the doctors are telling us. All of the doctors say that. What you need to do is get those carbs down. That's why that's step one. Get your carbs down. Let yourself regulate yourself, get used to this. And then you can start looking at the other things. We try to do everything all at once, and it doesn't work because it takes time to get used to one thing at a time, right? It takes time. You're not just going to change everything, because if you change everything, you're not used to anything, and you're much more likely to go back to your habit, wellness warrior. Now, if you want to know how I even got to the point where I decided to go all plant, you can watch my video that I did on adding extra protein to my keto life. Remember, again, very, very low in my keto life. I was eating avocado and olives, and I was only having those once a week, right? So one each. And actually, by the end, I was only having avocado once a week. So, but watch that video because it was very interesting. The amount of food that I was eating was still extremely high, and yet, right, my health has continued to not only maintain but improve. So check out that video in the description, and I'll link it at the end. I want to know if there's something that I missed, and you guys can put it in the comments, but also I'm curious to know if there's something on this topic that you have more questions about. So wellness warriors, first of all, let me just run through and say, Raven Blackwood, hello. Michael B. Live, hello. Hi, Pat. Hi, Sing It. Robin, hello. And Chica Campaign, hello. David Teichman. So I'm going to go through and just look at, look at what kind of questions we have. Do we have questions? So Michael, actually, I feel like you're saying something here. Let me just check it out. You can eat too much protein for strong ketosis at a therapeutic level. Absolutely science and well known. If you don't need that level of therapeutic ketosis, great. Absolutely. Why some struggle. So Michael, I think one thing that I will point out, and I do find that interesting, is that if you don't have any carbohydrates coming in, then like Dr. Bickman has been saying for quite some time now, you're going to be able to get to quite high, actually. So you can get into ketogenic levels, and you'll have ketones, and it's about balancing them. Now, for the flip side of the coin, if I'm not eating the thing that's causing my body to be insulin resistant, which is what's starting the problem for a lot of mental health issues, if I'm not eating the thing that's causing my body to be insulin resistant, then theoretically everything is going to level out. Now, of course, I've encouraged people and to think about this other piece of the puzzle. A lot of times when we start these kind of situations, we're still eating some carb and we're taking medication. So if I'm taking medication, it changes the story altogether. The same way that eating sugar changes the story altogether. That's why Dr. Berry talked about very, very, very low carbohydrates, because you need to be under that 20 for sure. But some people might need to be at 0, like Michaela Peterson, for example. Myself, I needed to be under 10 to make, well, I need to be under 18. I kept myself under 10 to make sure I maintained my ketones and everything going well. So my point is, if you're taking medications, interestingly, can also cause us to be in an insulin resistant situation, as I'm now learning, reading the book from Dr. Aid. So there's so many levels to this. It's hard to say that it's one thing or another, is my point. But I think anyone who's on medication, anyone who's trying to be in therapeutic levels of ketosis, if you're trying to be in a specific therapeutic range, you should obviously be working with a doctor. Today's conversation is more about us regular, typical people who maybe are trying to regulate mood, but you're not on any kind of medication. Maybe you're trying to regulate weight, you're not on any kind of medication, or you're noticing some physical things, not on any kind of medication, and you're trying to fix your diet so that you don't end up on medication. Those are the people I'm talking to. They're always the people I'm talking to, because if you are on medication, you should be doing this alongside your doctor. Hey, Pat. Nice that you're able to join me for a bit. Not sure if you're still here. Let's see. Do I have any questions? I'm going to jump forward and look for questions before I just do random. Random comments. I see one from Sing It. Why do you feel that they are trying to steer us away from essential proteins? You have your theories. So money. You know, everybody wants to live longer. And so if they can figure out a way to make us believe that we're going to live longer by taking this drug, they will sell it to us, even though there's no evidence that that's what's going to happen. So the classic example of this is if you go into the hospital and you have a heart attack or any kind of heart scenario, if they have to do something to your heart, they right away try to put you on statins, even though lowering cholesterol has been shown to not be helpful at all, and a lot of cases has been shown to be harmful. They still try to put people on statins. They still speak the same story and try to scare people into believing if they don't go on the statin, their health is going to deteriorate and they're going to do poorly. Now, one thing I will say is that people who do go on the statins, what they end up showing is that a lot of them take themselves off the statins because the results, so the side effects that they get are so bad. So I think that a lot of this just has to do with people wanting an answer and medical knowing that people want an answer. So pharmaceuticals and medical knowing people want answers. And of course, whenever someone wants an answer, somebody's going to try to find a way to capitalize on that. And on some level, I don't have a problem with that. But on another level, I do. I think that it's one thing to create something that's actually helpful that people can use that solves a problem. It's another thing to create drugs, medications, whatever you want to call them, that say they solve a problem, but you need to be like 300 people taking this medication for one person to have a benefit. To me, those numbers don't add up, right? If you told me to take this medication, for every 300 people that take it, one gets better, but the repercussions of me taking is make me feel bad right now, that the math isn't there. And this is where I feel like they're not being transparent enough. And so therefore, we shouldn't have to. We don't have to. So, okay, hold on. Let me back that up. We never have to take a drug that we're given, right? It's our decision whether we take it. But when we're scared into taking it because our doctor is telling us, if you don't take this, the problem that you had could come back, or the problem that you had, and there's no evidence to support that, but the doctor is telling them what the rep that brought them the drug is telling them. And so I feel like a lot of times the doctors don't actually take the time to look at the research themselves to evaluate if this is something they want to give to their clients. And I feel like then because the doctors don't do that, then they're telling us what the rep is told to tell us, but the rep is telling us that because, well, that's how they make their commission, right? The more doctors they get on selling the stuff, the better for them. And so this is long, winding problem that leads to us taking medications that we don't need. And yeah, that's ruining our health. And ultimately, that's the problem that I see, is that we are ruining our health. Raven says, how can we remove the blinders that so many others are wearing? Well, I hope videos like this helps people to remove the blinders, because I think that if we share our stories, first of all, it's part of the reason I have a link in the description that you can like click on that and come and tell your story of how did you improve your health with keto, carnivore, low carb, right? So I do have a link in the description for that. The more people talking about the reality, what was life like when I was eating standard diet? What was life like when I switched to a better diet? And we even see that if you switch to a healthy version of even vegetarian, people do better before the extra carbs cause problems. But getting the seed oils and the extremely high processed carbs out of your diet absolutely help, right? So if you're eating just whole foods and you are lucky enough to be using not vegetable oil to cook your stuff, then most people will do good before they start to have problems again, right? And that's because as soon as you give your body some good quality food, your body's going to give you back better health. Like it's just automatically going to do that. Hello, Marcia. I don't know how to say your last name, but hello. Happy to have you here. Kira Levy, hello. Seeing some new names. Melisandra, hello. So if you put QQQ in front of your comments, I'll know if they're questions or not for me. Robin. So let's see. So I'm just going to run back up because I thought I saw a pretty long one earlier that might have been a question. Carnivore definitely. So carnivore definitely works for some folks, but not all. Low carb intake is common on both keto and carnivore diets. Low carb intake is common. So I would say that if you're going to count, because yes, like first of all, can I just back up for a second and point out that it's impossible to get zero carb, because even the protein and protein, carb, fat that's listed on meat doesn't tell you the like small amount of carbohydrates that's in meat, right? So like theoretically, when we say carnivore, we're just saying we're not eating plants. So like to clarify that. But then you're saying low carb intake is common. So I would disagree with that in the sense that low carb intake on a carnivore diet means that you're misnaming your diet. So when I was eating one avocado a week, and sometimes it would be one every other week, I was still saying that I was keto because I was eating vegetation. When I went to do like a month and I was still putting spices on my stuff, I pointed that out. It's like, this is not true carnivore because I still put spices on my meat. Today, when I tell you that I'm not eating veg, it's because I've stopped putting spices on my meat. So I'm no longer eating vegetation. So we need to be honest even with ourselves of what we're doing, right? And I think that if I'm, at least for me anyways, all the while that I was eating avocados and olives, I was telling the world that I was keto because that's what I was. So David says, thanks for the videos. They are very encouraging. Thank you. You're 90 months of carnivore and I am losing and my feeling great. Okay. And healing decades of poor health. Okay. I thank God for the marvelous way my body is helping. That's the part that's so happy, encouraging, amazing, is that as soon as you give your body the right food, your body does the right thing. I think it's important for us to stop listening to these companies that are just trying to manipulate us into thinking that we need carbohydrates. We need these things more so than understanding that, no, what we actually need is to eat a healthy diet all the time. And that's how they get us, right? Because these fun things that they create look so enticing and so delicious, and we all want them, and we try to go get them and not realizing that those enticing foods are also hyper palatable. We've heard that word before. It's that not funny, that complicated word that they use that really just means that they put so much care into creating this food that once you start eating it, you're going to be sucked down the rabbit hole of wanting it all the time, over and over and over and over. And basically you end up overeating it, right? Why is it that it's so hard to eat just 2 Oreos or 3? What is the serving size? But why is it so hard to eat just the serving size? Why is it so hard to eat just 2 Pringles, right? No, you open the can, you finish the can. Why is it? Because they're designed that way, Wellness Warrior. And if we don't understand that they're designed that way, then we won't be able to do what's best for ourselves, honestly. Let's see. So I did that one already. Let's see. So Robin, no refined sugar, no seed oils anymore for a long time, while now. Good fat and protein, food prepared at home. That's the other thing. That's the other thing. And then along with exercise, that's the other thing. You know, we're so looking for convenience that we end up eating out way too often. We end up eating, like when we do eat home, eating pre-prepared meals and like processed things that don't allow our body the proper nutrition that it wants to heal us. And we just delay this process of healing. And as soon as we start eating home consistently, as soon as we start like making our food with good ingredients, our body heals. And like I said, even if you just go to veg, our body heals. So it's definitely something that if you're really expecting like your health to go from 0 to 100 in a month, it's not going to work. But I think that for the most part, most people are seeing great improvements if they start and stick with the healthier foods, right? If you try to do keto, but you're so focused on carb count and you're playing, you know, that game where you're buying a bunch of processed foods for your carbs and then trying to make it up with like just not having veg when you have those kind of things, I think they still don't work because your body's still getting chemicals in it that it has to detoxify and it cannot heal itself properly. Let's see. So, hi, I'm from Tanzania. I really follow you. Sometimes English a bit hard to understand. Well, thank you for taking the time to make the comment, though. I appreciate that. So, No Carb Life is a channel that I found on YouTube. He interviews people. Yeah, I believe you're talking about Dave, and I've been on his channel too to give a testimonial. He's amazing, and his story is pretty wild. So yeah. So somebody's asking easy mode. Asking, I notice I eat like 3 pounds of meat with salt and only 2 pounds with minimal salt. Am I just craving salt? So when I salt my food, I eat more. I honestly do not know that that would be a thing. I feel like, though, I do know that sometimes I needed a lot of salt, but I don't think it made me eat more meat. So that's interesting. One thing that I've noticed for myself recently is that, so first of all, when I was eating keto and had those avocados that I was having, I would salt them quite a bit. And I feel like for some reason, I felt like that was the place to put the salt. Now that I'm only eating meat, I am salting my food a bit more, but it's not like to the point where it's overly salty, because then that would make me not want to have it. But I can't say that I eat more because I've salted my food more. But I would also ask you, when you salt it more, do you like it better? Because maybe you're just eating a bit more because you like the way it tastes. So this is another thing that I will help people to be careful of. Some of us come from a world of overeating to overeat, and it gives us an emotional something to overeat. And so if it tastes good, we end up eating all of it, even though we didn't need it all. So for myself, for example, because I've been figuring out like how much salt I actually want on my food, I've been pretty good lately at putting the right amount of salt so it's not undersalted. And what I've seen is that, so now that I'm salting the right amount, I still sometimes will get to a portion of my food and be like, no, I can't do anymore. So I feel like that might be part of what's happening there. But that's a guess. I think you probably want to play with it, pay attention to it, and play with it a bit more. And I have a question here. Barbara, is carnivore okay if 70% kidney function? Would like to try, but worried about impact on kidneys. I would definitely ask your doctor, first of all, not a doctor. But from what I understood from most of the doctors that I follow, eating healthy is always better. So, but I would talk to my doctor. I know that oh my goodness, Dr. Bickman, I think it was as well, talked about kidney function and carnivore. So I would probably, or protein intake, I should say, I would probably check out his videos, Barbara, because he can talk more specifically to kidney function and protein. But what I will say is that for every person that I've seen, so every doctor that I've seen talking about this question, the answer is always eating healthy is the better thing to do. So that would be where I would lean if I was in your situation. I would just keep eating healthy, because eating healthy is the right thing to do. And carnivore obviously is taking the carbs out, obviously all the way down to the minimum. I would also, in your case, Barbara, be worried about seed oils more so. That would be the other piece of the puzzle, to make sure that I'm not having any seed oils. 70% function, I wonder even if you might be able to reverse your kidney issues if you really dial back any toxins that are coming into your body and just give your body, the highest quality that you can give it. So those seed oils, I think, would be the other big problem, because your kidneys will be working really hard to detoxify you. And obviously, if you're talking about doing carnivore, you wouldn't be, I hope, eating ultra processed foods. But there's a lot of people that do carnivore and then they're eating things like store-bought jerky and this kind of stuff. Again, if we're trying our best to be healthy, you need to make sure that every ingredient that you're ingesting is a real word food, right? So you want everything to be the highest quality possible. And it looks like we've come to the end of our questions. So I want to thank everybody for coming to the stream. I know I was up a little bit late because I had a little bit of trouble streaming today, but I made it work. So I'm glad that I was able to make it work. I'm glad you guys were able to be here. Always happy to answer questions. Look out for my video next Monday, my next live stream. And I have a video that should be dropping on Thursday for you to check out. So, you know what? For everybody who's still here, nutritional consistency coaching. The link is in the description below. If you want to work directly with me to help yourself to get your health under control, I suggest that you go click that link and register. I'm keeping the classes small. If you want to do the group, it's like they're only giving me 10 people in the group. And if you want to work one-on-one with me, you also have that option. So go to the description below, click on the link, and let's get you on this road to health so that you can change your life, right? Because that's what this is all about. Let's change our lives. So thank you. I'll talk to you guys next Monday. Bye.